Team GSTL Season 1. NS Hosa, Axiom-Acer, MVP, FX Open, LGIM, Azubu, Prime, StarTale.
Welcome back. StarTale has sent out the former Next player, Panic. And this is something that we didn't really expect, but it's definitely going to be a good way to get him not only exposure, but a lot of practice in the booth.
Yeah, StarTale lost their starting player, Life was eliminated, and the team literally panicked and sent out their second Protoss player. Now Ryung has to face him in a different matchup.
A little bit surprised they didn't choose Avenge for this one. You see him top there in the center.
And Axiom-Acer has to be quite happy. Keep in mind, guys, this team is already qualified for the playoffs, but the ranking, or the rank that you end up on the end of the season, is really, really important in this particular system that we use.
It's like skipping a whole round.
Exactly.
So.
And here, we haven't seen him at all this season. This is Panic, or the guy that you saw in the booth for a second ago was Panic. And I expect him to have a specific build prepared against Ryung.
Yeah, I mean, this guy could really surprise us. If you look this guy up, all you're going to find is some old YouTube videos from like 2010, 2011 when he's playing under the ID Next Panic. That's all you're really going to see.
He participated in a couple of online tournaments where he placed quite well. He participated, for example, in one of the qualifiers for the Home Story Cup. Also had a pretty decent run in the last Code A qualifier where he ended up in the finals, but then he lost. But in the end, like, this is one of those scenarios where Panic really hasn't shown himself in the booth here at the GSTL in Gangnam, nor in the individual league just yet. So we don't know too much about him. We don't know the team results that he has in-house, but we can expect him to have a specific build prepared for Ryung. He is definitely plan B for Team StarTale.
And you get a feel for Ryung a little bit here. It's kind of strange. You know, you have to play on Icarus, which is already weird enough as it is. There's a lot of different timings you can die to. Then you're playing against somebody you can't really have a feel for. I mean, unless Panic is using his real ID on the ladder, which is very unlikely, nobody really knows exactly how he plays. It's like, oh, I played him in the qualifiers that one time. I'll ask you maybe, but you're probably not expecting to see him. So, you know, your mind is just totally blanked out on this guy right now. And you're like, well, now this is just a ladder game against another barcode. I have to just play safe here on Icarus.
That's exactly the case, because right now StarTale approaches this with they have the knowledge who the player would have been. So Panic prepared for this exact opponent. He prepared for Ryung. Whereas up to this point, Ryung had no idea who he's going to face next. Against Life, he could prepare. He could study. He could come up with a strategy against Life. But that doesn't work against Panic. So this is the advantage that the Protoss has here. Ryung's still a very tough opponent to face. He has shown that in the first game and also in the past Clan Wars. But right now, we have actually Panic, just from a psychological point of view, a bit in the lead, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. So this has to make sure to, no pun intended, not panic in the booth if anything goes weird. Icarus is a map where you have a little bit more aggressive options. Hard to take a third base, especially as a Protoss on this map. We've seen that his teammate Avenge use immortal pushes on this map, aggressive 6 gateway attacks, all sorts of builds like that. He's just a very aggressive player in general. So maybe he's adopted some sort of medium ground here between what we've seen from Avenge and, you know, a macro player like Creator.
Yeah. And also what you just said is like completely true. For him, the biggest point right now for Panic, the biggest obstacle to overcome is anxiety. A lot of players, when they are in the studio for the first time playing in the booth, have a huge problem with nerves, and that is something that Panic has to conquer now.
Yeah, and this is going to be his first time. As far as I could find, I don't think he's ever played any offline match ever in his entire life.
Not just a GSTL version.
Yeah. Not just in this studio, but in any studio ever. So I mean, he's played some online qualifiers. He's been on like Husky's YouTube channel, but this is like the real deal. So he's got to make sure he keeps his wits about him, and he's got a lot of players to kind of help him through that. A lot of experienced players on StarTale who can say, yeah, you're going to feel like this, you know, make sure your air conditioner is set right, prepare in the booth a lot earlier, make sure you have all your equipment ready, because this is going to be a very different experience than just queuing up on the ladder or joining a custom game.
At the same time, there's quite some pressure on Panic's shoulders now, because if he loses this game, then suddenly Axiom-Acer has a hat with a 2-0, and there would only be 2 players remaining for the StarTale team. So that is a very difficult situation to face, especially when you're not up against Primer and NS Hosa, who this season did not really, they didn't accomplish too much. They were just not powerful enough to make anything happen. Huge comebacks is something that we did not see from them this season. So StarTale is up against a very strong team, and if they are suddenly 2 games behind, that would give Axiom-Acer such an amazing lead, especially since it is the starting player who would have accomplished those 2 wins. So Panic is definitely going to feel some heat here.
Yeah, he will have to feel the heat, but he does have the confidence to know this guy, Ryung, I know him. I've studied him, I studied the map, I prepared for this, whereas Ryung doesn't expect me, expects somebody different, like maybe another Zerg or even an Avenge. He's not expecting me, he's not expecting the map, and he can't even, I mean, he's had a 5-minute break to prepare, that's all he has.
I mean, we talked about this earlier. If you expect a Protoss player on the StarTale lineup, then you expect to go up against Avenge, because Avenge played so strong in his Code A run, and he defeated several Terran players. He took down Fantasy, he performed quite well against Flash, even though the score in the end was an 0-2. So he is the player who a lot of people expected to see here in the booth if there was a Protoss player suddenly on the bench for the StarTale team. But now it's Panic, and as you said, how do you prepare against this guy?
Yeah, I mean, you just really can't unless you're, you're alt-tab and during that 5-minute break trying to look up anything you can find, any VODs of this particular matchup.
So this is a bit of a gamble that the StarTale coach takes here. He says like, okay, I'll give you a shot. This match is really important for us. We want to go to the playoffs, and you are one of the boys that has to make it happen here. You can prepare for your opponent. Everyone is going to expect Avenge. Nobody will really expect you to come out, make the best of it, try to just overwhelm with the strategy. It is your map pick. You can prepare for that. Take out Ryung, and then we'll take it from there. As soon as you defeated him, we're going to be fine. Even if you lose the next match, that's going to be okay, because Ryung is one of the strongest players on the Axiom-Acer team. So do what you can to take him out.
Yeah, he's got to get sniped here. This is all on Panic right now. Map is loading. It's Icarus. A good map choice against a Terran player like Ryung. But Ryung has got to be expecting something tricky here. He just has to play safe. He has to scout a lot. This is, like I said, for him, just like hitting a barcode on the ladder. You just got to play safe, scout, and do what you've got in your mind for the map.
And Ryung is a player who can gather up momentum, but for now, Life has a bit of the edge in this particular match just because he has the map choice and he could prepare for Ryung. He is definitely the plan B that StarTale came up with when they knew who the starting player would be for Team Axiom-Acer. Can he pull it off? Panic against Ryung at the GSTL Season 1 2013, brought to you by Colin Wolf. The Terran player for Axiom-Acer after defeating Life starts at the bottom right of the map. It is
Axiom Ryung.
Ryung with a decent performance this season, especially against Protoss. 2 wins, 1 loss. Up to the top left we have his opponent, one of the 2 Protoss players on the StarTale bench. Not Avenge this time, nope, we have
StarTale, Panic.
First time we've ever seen him in the GSL booth. They hear Normokdong coming from the next side of things. Zenex, for those of you guys who do not know, was a relatively unsuccessful GSTL team that merged 2 clans together, and now they merged again with StarTale. The best players were taken.
And for Panic, we don't have too many statistics, but let me just run you through everything. We had him once offline, that was at the Season 1 qualifier for WCS, where he defeated 2 Zerg players without dropping a map, but then he lost against Terminator with an 0-2. We saw him also with the Home Story Cup Korean qualifier, which was an online tournament, it was not offline, and there he actually left a pretty decent impression. He 2-0'd Daisy, he 2-0'd Jakji, and he won against Kango without dropping a map before Maru finally defeated him later on in the tournament. So pretty good performance here in the online environment, but that's always a very different scenario from playing offline, especially when you're sitting in the booth in the studio. So let's see what Panic can do here. What can he accomplish against such a strong player like Ryung? Yeah,
Ryung, speaking of which, going for a gas first, and the way he's sending this SCV out, looks like we are going to have a proxy. And this is being done before he scouts. And, I mean, there's no reason that he would just go and scout now. I mean, he could do it and just make in the main base his factory, but I mean, now it's definitely definitely going to be a proxy. And he's going to send a Reaper out as well to scout, because he knows that even though he's doing an aggressive build himself, he wants to know what Panic is doing. He's a very unknown Protoss.
This is going to become really interesting here. The proxy could be so strong for Ryung. Question, of course, being if Panic will at some point scout it. But this is a very smart move by Ryung. He knows that his opponent most likely prepared for him specifically. and that on a map like this, you can go for a very technical build. So Ryung is just trying to shake him up as best as he can, and I feel this is a very good way to achieve that.
Yeah. Now, will we see a Stargate come out here? Would not be surprised by Panic, just based on his opening story. He's doing a Mothership core expand. Really, really safe for the map. And, you know, why pick a map like this if you don't have something special planned? And, he's going to go look for it. So smart here. Panic played so many games practice, but he doesn't check all the way.
That was so close. Oh my god, was that close. He actually moves back because of the Reaper.
Yes, this is the reason why. And you may even go to double check now once the Stalker is out.
I don't think he will. I actually think he will stay close with the Mothership core now. I would love to see it, but will he really pull off? He might see the SCV. The SCV alone, he sees the SCV and he sees the angle. That is the point where he has to realize that something weird is going on.
Yeah, very distracted here by the Reaper. His Stargate, will it be scouted? Yes, it is. And, you know, it's Widow Mines that we see.
Yep.
He's proxied Widow Mines, and there's no detection, and the Oracle is a long way off. This could do some serious damage if he gets in the mineral line. Right now, Panic needs to react. The Widow Mine burrowing next to his assimilator,
yeah,
or rather next to his mineral line.
He just stays out of the range, and he needs to either trigger the cooldown or just assemble his units in a good way. There we go. Cooldown being triggered, so we will see an Oracle for the detection, and he already knows that something fishy is going on here.
He should use... he could have tried to kill that if he used Time Warp, but didn't do it.
That Widow Mine was so... Oh, and he gets it. That Widow Mine was so fast that he knows, okay, something weird is going on at this point. Here comes already the Oracle, so he can go for the Envision. It's not going to be a problem for him any longer, but he should send something out to scout where those Widow Mines came from, because there is no way that Ryung rallied them across the map from his main base.
Exactly, and Ryung just very carefully positioning his Widow Mine right now. And nicely done by Panic as well, just putting a probe on top. There's another Widow Mine he doesn't yet see on top of the ramp, and that could be a problem.
Yeah, that could be a Widow Mine that costs him a lot of hit points or units here.
What an interesting choice to send the Oracle to attack rather than to defend, because he knows he's not losing too much here. It's not as important as it could be. He feels like he has to do damage right now to Ryung to retribute this, rather than just defending at home.
You know, that could actually be really worth it, because Ryung expects him to clear those Widow Mines first, and the Widow Mine is just getting one hit every now and then, taking down a probe, but that's it. And here we have the Oracle now, exactly with the time that he needs to take a few units down.
He needs to be careful against the Marines, and he only gets one SCV there.
I have to say that Ryung really prepared quite well for this. The defense was really good. I expected Panic to do a bit more damage with the Oracle.
Yeah, his Marines reacted instantly there. Here's that reveal. He's going to go down here, try to clear off the Widow Mine. He doesn't know about the one on the ramp, so he may miss that.
That could be a big problem, because, oh, wow, okay, here we go. Moving it back a little bit, that was really important.
These pylons he's placing down here are going to be able to spot drops. It also may scare Ryung into making a defense because he thinks it's going to be a timing, which is not the case right now. 2
Oracles on the map. And we have those additional Stalkers being built. One Marine goes down, the second Oracle could add for the main base. So Panic is being aggressive here. He has the extra supply that he needs to warp in additional units, and he chrono boosts the hell out of those gateways.
Yeah, he really needs to get those probes over to the natural. Now he does it. But there's another Widow Mine here, and it doesn't look like he's noticed it.
How many does it kill?
2.
Gets 2.
Could be worse, but this is a very aggressive push here.
And we have like 2 bunkers already. He needs
more than that.
Where are those SCVs?
They're way too late, and they are coming, but the Time Warp is good here. Does not have enough DPS, but could pick off some of the depots at the front. That's exactly what he starts going for.
Goes for the depots. He can take down also, of course, the barracks itself. And we have those few Oracles still on the map, and now he's moving into the main base. And there's just no bunker at this point. The one that he builds goes down immediately. That's a ton of Stalkers doing damage, and Ryung is supply blocked.
Ryung is supply blocked. He's trying to make a react here. That's definitely not going to work. Really nice usage of that Time Warp, knowing that he had a moment where he could run into the main base there while the SCVs could not come over to the second bunker to finish it. Beautifully executed.
Really going for this aggression here on 3 gates, and Ryung, he is paying the price. He's losing a lot of units at this point. The one bunker still going strong, and the Stalkers have to be careful. But there's so many of them picking off SCVs.
Ryung also made 2 bunkers at the back during this. Those are not useful at all. He's salvaging them. He's desperately trying to get his resources back, but I just don't see him living through this. He's lost way too much already. Stim is not done.
The Mothership core, on the other hand, is already gone, and more Stalkers are biting the dust here as the SCVs are being focused down. A lot of Harvesters lost by Ryung, and now he loses his tech.
And he's losing so many of those Marines. No Stim just yet, and that's the problem with that. With Stim, he could easily clean this up, but this is a great trade for Panic.
Great trade for Panic, and maybe even the barracks going down. That would help him a lot with the production here. But for now, Panic has to get out of there. Both of them are exactly at the same supply. We have a little bit of a lead in the Harvester department for Panic, but Ryang has the extra mules.
Yeah, Ryang has the extra mules. It's all about the Chrono Boost usage here.
The bunker! Down.
Bunker definitely down in 6 seconds here. This is a weird choice to send those last few Stalkers in, and that actually may have cost him the game. No joke. That Oracle just chilling over here.
He needs to realize that he has the Oracle.
He needs to move it.
He could actually even fight.
Yeah, and he's going to here, picking off some of those weakened Marines. The Marauders, though. What is he doing with those Stalkers? He's got to be more careful here.
He could have done so much more with the Oracle too. If he focused those injured Marines first, I think he would won that fight.
Yeah, he could have also just gone for the Marauders with them. GG, that was a shaky ending to a really nice idea.
Yeah, you could really see the idea coming through for him. And I have to say that the defense against the early Widow Mines was really well done. He only lost a couple of probes there and did a really good job. Scarlet nearly breaking Ryang's wrist here.
Yeah. You know, I feel like there were definitely
the weirdest highest fives that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree. But I want to say I feel there were definitely some nerve issues in that game, especially towards the end. Some of the control we saw and some weird choices with the Stalkers. The first trade with the Stalkers was good. Then he went in a second time, and that was when he was playing pure Stalkers versus pure Marauders, and that, my friends, is not what you want to do.
He could have done a little bit more. You could really see that the multitasking was not where it could have been. Anxiety, in my opinion, also a point here.
Definitely.
If he used, for example, the one Oracle that he had in the main base while he was attacking with the Stalkers to just go into the mineral line to pick off SCVs, that could have helped him a lot. He could have done so many things here. Also sniping that one barracks a little bit faster to make sure that that Ryang couldn't rally those Marines out a lot faster, because that was the barracks with the reactor. A lot of things that could have been a little bit cleaner, but it was a good attempt.
Yeah, it certainly was. The time warp execution was great. His choice to go into the main base the first time with the Stalkers, really smart, because he knew the time warp was still active. It was going to be hard for the Stalkers to get surrounded by SCVs. The second bunker got taken down, did some damage, was forced to lift on that barracks, and limited the production so much. But the problem was the Oracle control, the additional run-ins with the Stalkers, where his opponent had more units. If he just got himself together for a minute, rallied his probes back at home, everything could have been okay there.
At this point now, StarTale being down 2 games, and I feel that right now we have to see Curious. I would be surprised if we don't see Curious today, so in my opinion he's one of the 4 players that StarTale will send out, and I feel this is the best time. Because going for a TVT against Ryang is, in my opinion, not what you want to do, but you want to have the option of sending out Bomber if need be. You don't really know, do you want to send Avenger out later? Do you want to have Bomber there? So I feel for now you go with a safer option and send out Curious and play it from there.
I agree. The choice of map is Akalon. And with that, I just don't think they're going to use Curious, but, they may. I'm curious about it because, you don't want to send out Bomber here, but...
Yeah, not a TVT. I feel a TVT against a player like Ryang is just way too risky.
And you can't send out Avenge now, I don't feel either. It just doesn't feel right to send 2 Parasas out like that. You're putting too much in the bag there.
My thought process is just like, okay, you want to send out Curious either way. At some point you're going to send him out just because he's so good. So why not send him out now, and then, because you don't really know what happens after that, so you could need a Terran player, you could need a Protoss player.
Yeah, it's more flexible there.
Exactly, you can't use I would be very surprised to see a Terran player. They have so many strong Terrans on the roster, Hack, Sound, Bomber, but the problem really being is that Ryang is just too good against Terran to face him in the mirror matchup now.
Yeah, and on Akalon Waste, I could see it, but...
The thing is, like, if you have the map choice and you have the choice of player, you want to hit your opponent where he's a little bit weaker. And Terran versus Terran, this is the matchup where Ryang, especially during this season of GSTL, had his best results.
Will it be Curious?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. This is the right choice. I like this a lot.
Yeah, I like it too. So, for the reasons just mentioned, Curious being a good choice here, even though Ryang already defeated Zerg today.
Yeah, and most Koreans will tell you they don't like this map for Zerg versus Terran, but... I suppose Curious is over it. He's going to go for the map anyways, and it's a balanced map. You just have to play a certain style on it most of the time.
Yeah, I personally like to watch these games because I feel that Zerg has a lot of options what they can do here. There are certainly a couple of things that really work against the Zerg in the ZVT on Akalon, but a lot of the things that really are strong for Kerrigan Swarm is that you have so many different openings that you can choose from. Aggression early on is very successful in its map because the rush distance is quite short, but you can also head into a later game. And we've seen so many different styles here. I really like that.
And most Zergs will play aggressive on this map just because it's so tempting. There's a wide, very, very wide ramp. You've got short rush distance. It's two-player map. Also, you know, the late game that you mentioned, if you can get an advantage early on, feels comfortable. If you are behind, though, drop play and run-bys at your 4th and 5th bases in the mid to late game can really be a problem, especially with a player as good of a multitasking as Ryung. So, Creator could definitely be aggressive here. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, you know, one of the matches that one of the Zerg players that I actually casted recently while I was casting the RSL tournament was a Symbol on this map in Zerg vs Terran. And the one thing that I really loved about his style is that he did something that a lot of Zergs neglect. He, at some point, just realized, okay, I am a little bit vulnerable against drop play with the style that I play. He focused a little bit more on Roach Hydra, which we occasionally see against Zerg, and against Terran. He built so many spines and spores on all of his bases that it was literally impossible for the Terran player to do damage with drops.
Yeah.
And if you get ahead with a good opening in economy, that's something that you can do. But a lot of players react a little bit greedy because they think, well, I need this spank later on to just remax instantly. And it's true. But just dropping another couple of 400-500 minerals can help you so much to defend against drops. And then one of the advantages of the Terran is just instantly gone.
Yeah.
So it's something that we see a little bit more happening now. But we could see something completely different from Curious. I mean, he could also just go for Roach Baneling butters, for example.
Absolutely the case. You know, or even a fast 2-base early Roach, like 9, 10, 11 Roach push to do some early damage.
Yeah, one of those knock-knock pushes.
Yeah, and we've seen Ryung play a little bit greedy with some of his openings. So I'm sure Curious has studied this. He's known that, I don't want to say he's planned C here, but he was probably expecting to play against a Terran today, whether it was Ryung or Hart. You know, anybody you may face.
It's going to be a pretty interesting game. I love Aquilon as a map. As a spectator, it's one of those maps where we see a lot of interesting matches. Just because the map is a little bit smaller, it has more potential for aggression.
It's a great map. It's my favorite one, actually, out of the new maps.
At this point, I'm thinking about it, and I feel this is the map where I've seen the most entertaining game so far, on average.
Yeah, I love this map.
Yeah, we're jumping into the game right now. Let's see if this is one of these exciting matches that we see here at the GSTL. ZBT on Aquilon. We have Curious up against Ryung. Game on at the GSTL 2013 Season 1 with Colin Wolf.